everyone, this is a audio to accompany the PowerPoint presentation that focuses on the coding exercises at the end of chapter 15. As you know, chapter 15 is focused on the muscular system, muscles, tendons, bursa, and ligaments. For this presentation, you will note that it's a slightly different approach. So you are being asked to post your answers or your thoughts, your codes to the to the even exercises in the chapter. So that would be, for example, the procedure coding statement numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. As you know, the odd number exercises, which is 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, are provided in your textbook answer key, which is in Appendix B. So please, once you go through the exercises, think about posting your answers, your thoughts to the course discussion area. You can post in a text format, just typing, or you can use the audio or video feature in Canvas if you wish. So as noted, when you're looking at exercise number 1, which is incision and drainage of an infected right shoulder bursa, so what are the words in that clinical statement that point to a root operation? If we look at our ICD-10 PCS coding process, what words lead you to what will end up being your root operation for this particular procedure? Same for number 3. It's noted as an open repair of a ruptured right deltoid muscle. What word or words in that particular clinical statement would point you to a root operation? Because as we know, selecting the root operation is the first step in the process. Same for number 5. You have the clinical information given to you in the textbook of an incision of the tendon sheath of the constricted extensor digitorum brevis in the right foot, percutaneous approach. Number 7, in your textbook, you have percutaneous, a biopsy of a right gastrocnemius muscle. And then for number 9, you have an open excision of a lesion from the right Achilles tendon. So what are the clinical words that you're picking out to get you to a root operation, and then your indexing pathway? Again, as noted, in the back of your textbook, you do have provided for you the answers to those particular exercises. But if you have a question on that, one tip you might want to do if you're struggling with thinking about, well, how do I figure these out? You could reverse code them. So you have, for example, for number 9, you have the code given to you. It tells you what the root operation is in your textbook. Well, where's that terminology coming from in terms of the clinical statement? So if we move on to number 2, now for these particular ones, the even numbers, number 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, you do not have the answers in your textbook. And at this point in the course, depending on when you're accessing this presentation, you won't have the answers as of yet. The answers will be provided to you in the course once we've had a chance for some discussion. So for number 2, the text in the textbook for the exercise is: following a previous Mohs surgery with deep excision of a tumor, an open myocutaneous flap was transferred on the right forearm. So again, what's the clinical terminology you're going to use to pull out, or what we talk about in coding is abstracting out to get to the root operation? What is your indexing pathway in your ICD-10 PCS coding manual in the alpha index? Then what is your surgical approach based on the clinical information you were given? And then, of course, what is your final ICD-10 PCS code? So these are the questions you would be answering on the course discussion board. For number 4, the clinical statement in your textbook is an open palmaris longus tendon transfer of the right hand. Again, what is the root operation? What is the indexing pathway in your ICD-10 PCS coding manual? What is the surgical approach, and what is the final ICD-10 PCS code assigned? And these are the questions you would answer on the course discussion board. Number 6 is noted in your textbook as put back the avulsed left Achilles tendon open approach. What is the root operation? What is the indexing pathway? In the ICD-10 PCS coding manual, and remember your root operation should be your main term. So your root operation is going to be a word such as transfer or reattachment or extirpation. And then the next typical subterm is your anatomical location. What is the surgical approach, and what is the final ICD-10 PCS code assigned? For number 8, the clinical statement reads a percutaneous removal of a foreign body from the right abductor hallucis muscle. Again, you have the 4 questions: root operation, indexing path, surgical approach, and your final ICD-10 PCS code. And then for number 8, the clinical statement states pulling fluid from the left infrapatellar bursa, percutaneous approach. You have those same 4 questions. So again, you're pulling out, where is this telling you what the root operation is? What does pulling fluid mean? And how does that translate to an ICD-10 PCS root operation? And remember, you have the listing of all the root operations for the medical surgical section given to you back in chapter 1 of your textbook. You also should have them listed somewhere in your ICD-10 PCS coding manual. We have our surgical approach given to us in this clinical statement, and we have our anatomy. Then if we look at the case studies, and the case studies, as you know, are operative reports. For the case studies 1, 3, 5, and 7, you are given the answers in the textbook. Again, if you have a question on those, please let me know. I'd be happy to address them. I would tell you definitely to make sure you code them and think about obviously coding them and then looking at the answer key. Going through the same process you do on the shorter clinical statements. If you're not getting the exact same code with all the same character values and you're not understanding why, that's when you post a question. You can post a question to the board, or you can send me an inbox communication. For this particular chapter, which is chapter 15, case studies number 2, 4, and 6 are part of the graded assignment for this chapter or for this course. So we're not going to, in academic integrity, we're not going to look at them. But one caution I would state, 2 things I would tell you about those is 1, make sure you do the non-graded exercises first, especially the code building exercises that are in your textbook in chapter 15 before you tackle the graded exercise, because often there's some similarities between the non-graded exercises and the graded exercises. And also, of course, pay attention to the assignment informational document, because I often give you some information that's designed and provided to help you make code decisions based on this particular set of clinical information that's given to you. And also, don't forget about your coding process. Your coding process for ICD-10 PCS is the same, whether you're coding something very short, such as open repair of a ruptured right deltoid muscle, as in exercise number 3 in chapter 15, or something much longer, such as operative report number 4, which a patient has a complex laceration of the left index finger going into the tendon, into the joint. So we have 2, 4, and 6 for our assigned exercise. So we're going to look at, in this presentation, number 8. And in this time, you are now moving into the role of a auditor. So you are someone who has some level of comfort with ICD-10 PCS. Hopefully that's true. If not, we're going to make that leap of faith. And you are being given code. So you're given the clinical information, in this case number 8, and you are also given the codes that were assigned either by a physical coder or perhaps they were assigned by computer assisted coding software. And again, this is where coding is moving to some degree, especially inpatient coding, especially if you work at a large university type hospital that may have the infrastructure and the finances to purchase computer assisted coding software. The coders will move into the role of an auditor. And also, there are job positions right now, currently, where coders are auditors. You could work for an insurance company and you were given the code, the bill that was sent to your institution, your insurance company, and you were also then given copies of the clinical record. So in this case, this is a real scenario. Could be happening today, could be happening 10 years from now. So you're given this operative report and you're given these two codes. You're given 0LB83ZZ and 0LB73ZZ. And your job is basically to verify if you feel those codes are correct. And typically an auditor may or may not say what the correct codes would be. They may say these codes are incorrect and they want to give some reason for it. Your root operation is incorrect, your anatomical character values are incorrect, something. You're not going to say these codes are not correct. You're going to give some more information as to why the codes are not correct. And if you want to provide what you think are the correct codes, you can do so. In this case, this patient has a specific condition. It's a contracture of the 5th finger and the 4th finger, and is having a fasciotomy. And remember what that word fasciotomy means clinically. If we break it down medical term wise, what does that word otomy mean? In addition to what is documented in the procedure and detail component of the operative report, on the second, or actually the first full paragraph, where it states several incisions were made in the 5th finger and one in the 4th finger at the flexor crease of the proximal phalange. So what does that mean in terms of the surgical approach? Is that reflected in these codes that are provided to you? So again, you're going to post your thoughts to the discussion board in the course, and if you have any questions on the odd exercises, please feel free to ask me via Canvas inbox or via the discussion board.